Hi, I'd like to welcome you to Friends of 1913 financial presentation on the benefits of keeping the 1913 building. We've created a pro forma financial analysis, and I'd like to introduce you to Charles Robinson, who is a career corporate finance executive with vast experience in investment banking, fund management, and VC investing. He's going to walk us through the pro forma, and I'm going to be asking a few questions that might help you to understand it a little bit better.
Kim, thank you for that intro. If you'll allow it, I would like to share my screen and this pro forma model, and I'll talk about what went into it.
Wonderful.
So bear with me. Now, are you able to see that?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. So what was the exercise here? What was the purpose of this? This is a model that was put together, a so-called ground up model, starting with assumptions. We think realistic assumptions of what could be done with, from an economic standpoint, what could be done with the 1913 library building once it was filled in on its southwest corner, and once it was made to be an independently standing and functioning building from the standpoint of plumbing, heating, lighting, electrical hookup, etc. So what could it be? We take off from the standpoint of a clear understanding that the New Canaan Library does not want this building at all, that they want to abandon the building, they want to even demolish the building. We do want to take that building off their hands and, as we said, repair it and then repurpose it to good use. And so what we've done here is we've posited a notion that it could be, among other things, it could be repurposed as an office space, and is a decent size for that, albeit not a massive size. And so what we did was we said that let's look at what competitive office space in the area, in the immediate area, rents for today. And so let me show you. We believe it's about as close to 3,600 total square feet. We apply a cutback for common areas, bathrooms, and so forth, a 30% cutback to rentable square feet of 2,520. Why? There could be more than one tenant that rents this space. Should it be one tenant, then they'd rent all 3,600 square feet. The competitive rents range from $1.47 per rentable square foot per month to a high of $4.33 per rentable square foot per month, and average $2.90 per rentable square foot per month. We've validated this with a couple of commercial real estate brokers, and if anything, they think that the using of the 290 might be a little on the low side, but let's be conservative as we continue. The other key things that we posit here is that inflation, where we'll escalate the rents at a 1.75% per annum, and that's above where we think inflation is today. And we're going to be discounting the cash flows from this proposed lease at 3% per annum. Any cash in the bank we propose would earn 0.4% per annum. Last thing to know is we'll have a secondary rent flow for special events that could be, one could rent a terrace that is going to be proposed off of the west side of the repurposed building, and that would be seasonally, that could be rented for special events. And we propose per event a charge of $1,500. The other thing that we should point out is that This analysis does not take into consideration the receipt of Connecticut preservation monies, grant monies, or tax credit sales. However, we would fully intend to avail ourselves of those funding sources in this project. And when one looks at the equity, then the return on equity would be even higher should one benefit by non-dilutive types of funding. So let's go on. What would it take, do we think, to make the building stand independently of the new Canaan Library complex and be able to be operated and occupied in a modern office way? And the answer is, we think that it would take $828,000, where the single largest component of that would be the design and the completion of the currently missing southwest facade. And there are a range of possibilities for that infill, from a glass type curtain wall with entrance doors there, insofar as that would be ADA compliant entryway at grade. So that would be the single largest component. The second big component would be, we've talked about the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and finished plumbing upgrades there to make the building, again, independent of the new Canaan Library. And then interior finishes, some masonry work, although the building's in superb condition, as I think we've all learned from the feasibility study conducted by Kirk and Company. And so the other key thing to point out is we build in 2 reserves if one or another of the expenditure areas are too low. We build in 2 reserves, each in the amount of 10%. So typically one would only put in a 10% reserve, but we doubled that up to get to the $828,000. So key to point out, less than $1 million, we feel pretty strongly will make that building functional and relatively quickly. And it starts from the fact that the building is in such excellent condition right now, basement to roof. All right, so what do we do in these outlying years as we remember that we're projecting the capital expenditures and the maintenance capital expenditures. I'm speaking now to the latter, the maintenance capital expenditures. In each year, we put a number from 6,000 in, and then we add to it with some extraordinary capital expenditures in every 3rd year. And then in every 10th year, we add $25,000 should there need to be a capital item replaced, like a roof, like a furnace, like all new plumbing, what have you. And again, I want to show you that in every 3rd year, we add additional, and then in every 10th year, 25,000. So over the span of a 22-year period, we posit that there would be total capital spent in the building of $1.11 million. And again, that's not a great amount, but we think we've got it covered from the standpoint of ongoing maintenance and keeping it rentable and desirable. So what would a lease, a triple net lease, which would include the tenant paying in its rent for any real estate taxes that would be assessed against this project, what would it look like? So thinking back to our assumptions of $2.90 per rentable square foot per month, our primary rent revenue in the first year alone would be just shy of $90,000, $87.7 thousand. That seasonal terrace rental, $21,600, and then we put in for gifts, donations, royalties, and souvenir sales, $3,000. Believe it or not, people in town love their library, their 1913 library tote bags, and that could be something that could be sold for a little bit of additional revenue, but it's not consequential. And then we've got our what we call landlord level expenses: insurance, security, base utilities expenses, part-time superintendent for looking after and the upkeep of the building, and professional and other expenses. Total expenses $39,260. And that again was pointed out by Kirk and Company that just if we solely needed to just cover the expenses alone and not generate any surplus, that would be approximately $11 per annum per rentable square foot, or just less than a dollar per square foot per month, rentable square foot per month. So we escalate again each year on our primary rent and on our secondary by the inflation rate. We keep flat the gifts, donations, royalties, and so forth. And we escalate our expenses as well. But the point being is that in each year, from the first year, using those assumptions, again, reasonably conservative, what we have is a surplus. We have a profit. We have net income from the lease of this building. That we're going to see in a minute when we make the one change is going to increase. So let's go all the way over for the life of the project. And we modeled this thing out for 22 years, I believe. And that's supposed to be equivalent to the time frame that the town will bond its contribution to the New Canaan Library for the new New Canaan Library structure. We just wanted to model out what it would be over the same time period. And what we've got here is a very handsome cumulative net income and cumulative revenue. These are the over the lifespan of the 22 years, these are the sums. Okay, so we talk a lot about maintenance and capital improvement reserves. And so since we start out just saying that we'll raise $828,000, and no, we'll raise more. But since we start out with no capital surplus, we just add to that our periodic net income, a little bit of interest on money in the bank, and then we subtract from that sum periodic capital expenditures to yield an ongoing reserve account balance. So in the first year, we build the reserve to $67,000 by this, just only assuming raising $828,000. And on it goes by mainly driven by the periodic net income. In this case, no deficits ever. There's periodic net income. And so again, let's look out here. I got to move this. Let's look out here. There's the periodic net income, the interest over the life of the project, the subtotal. There are the periodic capital expenditures. Notice again, no grant proceeds or tax credit sales, but we will pursue those. And the total reserve account balance at the end of the period is handsome. Interesting, it's almost twice the $828,000, and that's the reserve, Okay, so corporate finance people and people looking at capital projects like to look at the flow of cash, the layout of the cash, and then any increments that come back in the way of income, return on the investment. We like to discount those back to see what does this project look like on a present value basis. And what it looks like is it's a positive project. Its net present value is $324,000 approximately, and 6.6% internal rate of return. So this is a project worthy of doing. Corporate finance people say that broadly that if a project has a positive net present value, it's worth pursuing. at the margin. So now let's go back and make a change in our key assumptions, which will flow through so we can see what if we rented to one tenant. So here we're going to get rid of our loss factor, our 30% loss factor. We're going to make it 0 because one tenant, be it a bank or be it an investment firm or what have you, for the whole space, would pay for the full square footage of the building. So let's note that by doing rentable square feet and the total square feet are equal 3,600 square feet. Let's proceed with that and take a look at our operations here and notice what happens to the net income cumulatively, $2.76 million cumulative over the life of the project by that incremental primary rent. And then let's look at the internal rate of return for that. If I can get that tab up. Look at that. Internal rate of return doubles, or rather almost doubles, and the net present value trebles. So this could be, this at the most conservative assumption, it's a positive project. At slightly more liberal assumption, but not much, it's a magnificently doable project and well worth the doing. So that concludes my remarks, and I will be open to receiving questions on this and to seeing this through. This is really, really worthwhile.
Yeah,
thank you.
Terrific. Thank you so much for walking us through that presentation. I am just going to take it off the screen for a second. Okay, so terrific. So I think I just want to backtrack a little bit and just point out the fact that, first of all, like you said, the building is planned to be demolished in 2 years. In public meetings, the New Canaan Library has said that the demolition of the building, including regrading, softscaping, hardscaping, and making a lawn, is at the cost of about $2.5 million. And that would be part of the overall cost of the library. So to me, and I'm not a finance person, but you did a great job of explaining to me, how this all works. To me, this is an incredibly positive investment opportunity for anyone to take part in, because not only do we save $2.5 million, but then we gain anywhere from 1.8 to 2.76 million, depending on whether we have multiple tenants or we have one tenant. So it just seems like a win-win for everyone. And I think that this is very different from the way New Canaan has handled other buildings. I don't know what your sense is, Charlie, but the town has expressed to us very clearly, especially in these financial times, they do not want to have to be paying for a roof, or they don't want to have to be paying and saddled with the debt of a building. So can you talk a little bit about how this model is very different than what's been the model in past town acquisitions or stewardship by the town?
It takes off from a notion that the building is an asset, that starting with its aesthetics and its iconic landmark status in our town, that's the baseline of its asset. Its quality of construction and its conditions, good maintenance over the years, then position it with not terribly much money in making it stand independent and independently operating and served by utilities and new systems. That will make it all the more desirable than to just add it as an office space, as one idea. It could be doctor's offices, it could be an accountant's office, whatever have you. But to add it there, it's in a fantastic location and modernized in its systems. This will be a desirable space. So it takes off from a positive view that this is an asset that can be made productive for not very much money. And it could be rented very, very competitively, as we see, right in the middle of the range. Anything higher, it's that much better of a project.
Right. And when we're going to do some other videos, and we're going to show a little bit more clearly that the buildings, the new Canaan Library will stand 70 feet away from this building, and there's still lots and lots of green space that can be beautifully landscaped and provide lots of recreational areas for people to hang out in, you know, as they go into town or to read a book or whatever. And our overall goal is to not to have a complementary use, that this 1913 building would have a complementary use to library programming as well as a complementary design. So all in all, to me, it's a win-win for the town and also for the taxpayer. And I think, I don't know if there's any other comments you want to add, but I'm going to wrap things up and just say that this is going to be part of a series we're going to be doing, where we're going to be rolling out different parts of the 1913 Friends plan, from historical research, the backing of the NCPA, New Canaan Preservation Alliance, who has agreed to be an interim owner or leasee of the building, and to provide the 501c structure for it to be tax deductible, to be able to steward the building into, you know, the next century. Any other comments or things that you think I left out, Charlie, that we need to bring forth?
Nothing other than we would welcome questions and comments and everyone's joinder in saving and repurposing this building. Thank you very much.
Exactly. Thank you. Okay.